Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video. And that's right, you read the title of this review, and it's not just me, but I once again got my good friend Elijah Goring.
Thanks, man. It's good to be back. I'm happy to do this movie review.
Yes, that's right. Me and my good friend Elijah Goring, we're reviewing the 2002 Spider-Man film. Yes. I gotta say, definitely, in the early 2000s, movie adaptations of, superheroes, comic books, like, they were really, becoming really good once again, especially after what happened in the late 90s, like, say, Batman and Robin, But when movies like, say, X-Men and this, they came out, they were successful, and comic book movies were awesome again. So yeah, I'll read the description / the story. Spider-Man centers on student Peter Parker, played by Tobey Maguire, who after being bitten by a genetically altered spider, gains superhuman strength and spider-like abilities to cling to any surface. He vows to use his abilities to fight crime, coming to understand two words of his beloved Uncle Ben: with great power comes great responsibility. So, we'll come to you, Elijah. What are the first things you have to say about the first Spider-Man film?
Ooh, that is a great question. I remember I remember seeing this movie with my cousin, right? And it started out that my aunt brought my cousin the DVD. I mean, I'm sorry. Okay. My aunt brought my cousin the special edition DVD of Spider-Man, and she brought it at Blockbuster back in November 2002.
Right.
And after the movie was a big hit, and I mean, it came out in the beginning of November. Well, I watched it for the first time. It was incredible. I really loved that movie to start to finish. And years later, I've been watching it on TNT, and I've been watching that movie, even though I've been watching that movie on Cartoon Network back in 2008, and this is the first Marvel movie is partnering with Columbia Pictures, which is a division of Sony and Sony Pictures Entertainment. I know Columbia Pictures and Marvel had like this long history. I really love Tobey Maguire as the original Spider-Man, the OG Spider-Man, and Kirsten Dunst and Willem Dafoe. Actually, Willem Dafoe did a great job as playing Green Goblin.
Yes.
100%.
Green Goblin / Norman Osborn.
Norman Osborn. I was going to say that.
Yes.
Norman Osborn. And I'm surprised that James Franco was in the movie. I'm not a big fan of James Franco like that, but
yeah,
I really love Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, and this movie is one of the best Marvel movies in film history, in Hollywood history. This movie was a huge hit. Everyone loved the movie. Everyone is a big fan of Spider-Man and Marvel, and this movie came out 2 years after X-Men.
Yes, it did.
This movie was a fantastic movie. I loved it.
Yes.
My favorite Marvel movies since I was a child.
Exactly. Because, for Spider-Man to come out, literally 2 years after X-Men, and, I'm sure because, for a lot of people, because, like, how excited they were, starting with X-Men, and then comes another Marvel movie adaptation, which being this. So, yeah.
Right.
But,
right.
yeah, okay, so for me, I remember, watching the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, not say, like, every single time, but, I did watch them, I did watch a good chunk of them, with the first two, and when the third film came out.
Right.
And, yeah, because with the cast of characters, they are fantastic. Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin. Like, definitely, he was the perfect choice, and is the perfect choice for Green Goblin. And yeah, James Franco as Harry Osborn. I like him as an actor, and he's good. He's a really good actor, and you know what? He was good as Harry Osborn. And like the chemistry between him and Peter, Mary Jane, and his father, Norman. And also the late legendary Cliff Robertson as Ben Parker. And fun fact, Cliff Robertson had done something else, a comic book adaptation, which was on TV. The 60s Batman show. He was a villain, a cowboy by the name of Shame. I'm not making that up. That's real. Yeah. Rosemary Harris, she plays Mary Parker. And yeah, like both Rosemary Harris and Cliff Robertson, they were good as Peter's aunt and uncle. And here's another thing. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, not once, they never establish Peter's parents. Now, when the Amazing Spider-Man films happened with Andrew Garfield, they definitely established, Peter's parents and what happened to them. But the Sam Raimi films, no, they don't. I don't know why they didn't. That it wouldn't have hurt for them to mention Peter's parents. I mean, if anybody is, was well aware about the story of Peter's parents and what happened to them. So, and yeah, because this is like the first Spider-Man film. Well, this is where Peter, first becomes Spider-Man because, of the field trip at that science lab and him getting bitten by the spider. And, not long after, he transforms into Spider-Man having those powers. And it's pretty cool because at the same time when he's becoming Spider-Man, Norman Osborn becoming the Green Goblin because of like experiment stuff and so on. And even say later on in the film, Norman Osborn, is told that, he is forced to resign from his own company. And that delivery that Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn gives, you know how much I sacrificed. That was really good. Yeah, and some of the other characters like Joe Manganiello, if I'm saying his last name right. Yeah, a lot. I feel like people seem to forget that he was in this movie. He was young, like he was Flash Thompson. And in the first film, Flash and Mary, they were dating. But then at one point at graduation, they broke up. And, because Peter had always had a crush on Mary Jane Watson, and here's the thing, because, there are some people that have complained about this, like Peter and Mary's romance, Peter has the hots for Mary Jane, and, he should have asked her right there and then after she and Flash had broken up, but, he doesn't, and thus Harry goes out with Mary Jane. But of course, later on, things don't work out between Mary and Harry, so, yeah, another thing is, because, people say what they will about Tobey Maguire's performance, and that goes for my mom, like, how she feels about Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker / Spider-Man. My mom, she calls Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker / Spider-Man whiny. I'm not joking, that's how she feels, and, I understand, I respect her opinion, but, yeah, but you know what, I think Tobey Maguire, he does his best delivering some good dialogue and some emotion, and also, the funny moments in this, some really good funny moments in this, in the film, Aside from if anybody would find some of the dialogue funny, gobby, etc. But I think one of my favorite funny moments is where Peter trying out like the web shooting, and he's saying up and away web, fly Shazam. That was pretty funny, by the way, because Ben Parker has a talk with Peter, and with the famous quote, with great power comes great responsibility, even telling Peter that he's not trying to be his father, and Peter, he flat out says, then stop trying to be my father. And geez, that's a bit harsh, Peter. And to think that would be one of the last things he would say to his uncle, especially because he enters in this wrestling match to win a good chunk of money to get a car, to please Mary Jane Watson. Things don't go his way for that, and his wrestling name that he goes by, he calls himself the Human Spider, and we get a cameo from Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell, who appears in all 3 Spider-Man films, and supposedly, had the 4th film had happened, there would have been a good chance he would have been Mysterio. So, yeah. So he's the ring announcer, and, he calls Peter, instead of the Human Spider, Spider-Man. And, yeah, as I said, things don't go Peter's way. He does win the wrestling match, but he doesn't get the money that he needed, and a robber comes in, and even at one point we assume and we think that it is the robber that killed Ben Parker, but as we all know, in the 3rd Spider-Man film, that was Sandman, because Sandman was with that robber. So yeah, if any of you have seen Spider-Man 3. So after Ben Parker's death and, with the defeat of the robber, well, a little bit later, Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man. And, soon headlines spread around New York. And, of course, we get the introduction of Jonah Jameson. Yeah, played by good old J.K. Simmons. He definitely fits the role of Jameson like a glove. Do you have anything to say on J.K. Simmons and his role as Jameson?
Yeah. I seen him in this movie as well, and Whiplash. Well, it's my favorite Blumhouse movies. He did a great job playing this role, and he's like this sort of asshole role, I would say.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way.
I'm saying okay, he did a great job in the role, because it's a very iconic role, but it turns into everyone posting this scene. It turns into a friggin' meme, And he did a great job though from the get-go.
He did, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, and those that work at the Daily Bugle, Elizabeth Banks, and I think people seem to forget that Elizabeth Banks was in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. She played Betty Brant, and also, I forgot about this, Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother, yeah. He played Hoffman, so yeah, there was Hoffman, and Joseph Robertson, played by Bill Nunn.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, as I said, Spider-Man on the newspapers, the Daily Bugle, and a little bit later, Peter Parker, he's looking to have a job as a photographer, because he's really good at taking pictures, being a photographer, and, basically being Spider-Man's personal photographer, because Peter, getting so many good pictures of Spider-Man, and the fact that he is Spider-Man, so that's what makes it funny. Also, more on Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin. Well, because again, Willem Dafoe, he was the perfect choice for the Green Goblin, and, the Green Goblin in this, I think, is really good. And, yeah, some people like complain, because like, the original designs for Green Goblin, they look like they were going to be pretty good, like face makeup and such for Willem Dafoe, but they instead went with a helmet, which, you know what? It doesn't bother me. And there are a couple of times we get some really cool creepy shots of seeing Willem Dafoe's eyes, and like one shot of seeing his mouth, him talking, that those were some really cool shots. And the voice that he gives for Green Goblin is spot on, misery, misery, that's what you are, blah, blah, blah. And, that whole like festival, whatever it was, in New York, and, yeah, and all the balloons, and Stan Lee making a cameo at one point. In fact, like this was in the bloopers, and apparently this was cut because Spider-Man was at one point supposed to be connected with the X-Men films, and Stan Lee, I think he interacted with Peter Parker saying, try these. They wear them in the X-Men. So yeah, even Hugh Jackman was scheduled to appear in Spider-Man, but that never came to be, and thus, plans for the Spider-Man films to be connected with the X-Men films didn't come to be. So I think it was probably for the best. So, yeah, and, other stuff that goes on in the film, because, like, Mary Jane, like, she's trying to do auditions, but, fortunately it doesn't go her way, and, Norman Osborn slowly but surely realizing that Parker is Spider-Man, and even at one point, almost kills and threatens May Parker, Aunt May, and yeah, and also like Spider-Man at one point was framed and wanted. Obviously, I think because of the Daily Bugle and Green Goblin's their doings, especially the Green Goblin,
Right.
Yeah, especially because. And let's talk about the dialogue. People have also complained about the dialogue, but it doesn't bother me either, and like, especially like that famous sequence, where in the it rains, and Spider-Man saves Mary Jane from those crooks, and the famous upside down kiss, and even Mary Jane says, I think I have a superhero crush, however she says it. And like another line that is just, because when Spider-Man, first he saves a baby, and then he thinks that, there's a woman trapped in the building that's caught on fire.
Flames.
Yeah, flames. And it's Green Goblin. And, what about my generous proposal? Are you in or are you out? It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind. And, I mean, that definitely sounds like something that the 60s Batman show would do, pretty much.
Oh my god.
Gobby. So, I mean, okay, this is a comic book, movie adaptation, but, it needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done in the right way. So there you go. Even say Green Goblin at one point called Jameson slime, and when Spider-Man damaged Green Goblin's wing, Green Goblin escaping, and he shouts, "We'll meet again, Spider-Man!" And yeah, that was not done right. But you know what? Still, that doesn't bother me. So
I was gonna say something, but
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm surprised that Bruce Campbell was in the movie. I knew him from the Evil Dead series, even though I know Sam Raimi movies for a while. I know him from this film and the rest of the sequels of the Spider-Man films. But the movie, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Sam Raimi like that, but I really like the casting of this movie. I had to say Willem Dafoe did a great job as Green Goblin.
Yes.
And, it's my favorite Spider-Man villain. Me personally,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I've seen the sequels of the series, the Tobey Maguire films, as we speak.
Right.
Doctor Octopus and Sandman,
and Venom.
And Venom, yes, played by Topher Grace.
Yes.
And which is the spinoff of Venom with Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's no spinoff of Sandman, which is stupid. And I mean, it's not Sony's fault, but it's Marvel's fault. But I'm not criticizing the concept. Tobey Maguire did a good job with the movie. I'm not saying he's whiny. He's like, I don't know why I'm saying this, because I have a feeling that he looked like he about to win an Oscar for his role.
Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst on the line. She did a great job as Mary Watson. She is like hot. I know. I think it was like, it's like 2 years after. I think 2 years. I don't know, like a few years before or after Bring It On. I remember Bring It On very well.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a breakout role for her movie, and this is her breakout role in this film. And I remember seeing the scene where the parade in Times Square. Macy Gray was in the movie as well as a cameo. Singer I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't know that. But I remember just seeing that the Green Goblin attacking everybody and pretty much blowing up buildings and all that. It's like shit hits the fan.
Yeah, and he like one of his like bombs, like throwing it and basically literally killing those at the board meeting, that told him like, that he's forced to resign. Am I out? As he says. Yeah.
Yeah, he's out. I mean, like after what happened, he literally gone rogue all of a sudden.
Yeah.
In fact, I would have. You know what? I'm right. In fact, he all of a sudden he went rogue.
Yeah. Well. Here's the thing. As I said earlier, Norman, turned into the Green Goblin. The thing is, it's the classic traditional Dr. and Jekyll and Hyde. He's being manipulated by the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin is doing all this stuff, not Norman. So that's the thing. And how it would be well established more in Spider-Man No Way Home.
I don't know, man. He's playing. I think the way I see Norman, he's the victim, and the Green Goblin constantly convinced him to do this crime, and and it's like people are getting hurt or murdered or something like that. And then another scene I remember, Mary Jane was in that Williamsburg bridge, and these kids in like this line thing cart, and he just blew up.
Yeah.
He just blew up the wheels of that line thing. I was like, this shit is crazy.
Yeah.
And this man is twisted.
And now that you bring that up, because the climax that happens, at the bridge, because after, Peter at the hospital, he stayed there with Aunt May, and with talking about and mentioning Mary Jane, and because again, Peter always had a crush on Mary when he was a kid, and that's when it hits Peter. He goes to a phone booth and calls Mary Jane. She doesn't answer, but Green Goblin answers. He already got Mary Jane, and at the bridge, he's got Mary Jane held hostage, and yeah, like school kids, I want to say, and
something like that.
yeah, he's got them held hostage, and threatens Spider-Man like, you can only save one, and he lets go of both the kids and Mary Jane, and of course, Spider-Man does save both Mary Jane and the kids. And it was a very nice moment that the citizens of New York, they take on Green Goblin. You mess with Spider-Man, you mess with all of us. Yeah. And, of course, Spider-Man, he saves Mary Jane and the kids, but it's not over between Green Goblin and Spider-Man. The ending to the climax, like at this abandoned building, and Spider-Man, his suit being, torn up and,
Destroyed.
yeah, exactly, partly destroyed. And Spider-Man taking on Green Goblin, he injures him and damages his suit. And of course, that's when Green Goblin reveals to Spider-Man that he is Osborn. And, Osborn, Peter, thank God for you. And, the Goblin did it. I had nothing to do with it. Don't let him take me again. I beg you, protect me. And
Jesus.
yeah, because again, as I said, Green Goblin taking control of Osborn, etc., etc., and that's when obviously, because as Osborn is talking, well, this is Green Goblin's doing, activating the glider, and about to strike Peter, and Osborn saying, "I've been like a father to you," and sure enough, Peter says, "I have a father. His name was Ben Parker." And that close up of Osborn, now Green Goblin, saying, "Godspeed, Spider-Man." And the glider, almost about to kill Spider-Man, but of course, Spider-Man does a backflip, and it's charging to Osborn, and, like at one point, because, him going, "Oh," and it kills him and impales him, and the last words he gives to Peter is, "Peter, don't tell Harry," and yeah, he's dead. And, he didn't want his son to know about this, but of course, Norman does find out that obviously his father is dead, and,
Right.
I think, because I forget, I think the reason that Norman told Peter not to tell Harry is, well, probably doesn't want his son to know what he had become, becoming the Green Goblin and so on. And Norman, I'm sorry, not Norman, Harry. Harry thinks that Spider-Man killed his father, and thus that would continue in the other two Spider-Man films. Believing that Spider-Man killed his father and so on, and the ending to the film, because with Norman Osborn's funeral and Peter visiting his uncle's grave and Mary Jane being there, and Mary Jane confessing her love to Peter, and Peter wants to confess his love to Mary Jane as well, and if they had become a couple right there, but he can't. Not because that he doesn't want to, it's because he has to protect Mary Jane. He can't tell her that he's Spider-Man, because if he does, his enemies will capture her and stuff like that. Even though, before he told her that he was Spider-Man, she was getting kidnapped all the time, and the same thing was kind of happening to Aunt May. So,
Oh Lord.
I know, because that's crazy. You could I don't. It's like this. You would just say, "Dude, it doesn't matter if you tell them or not. They're still getting captured. Have you not realized?" So.
Yeah, I was gonna say this. Well, since you talked enough, I was gonna say something, my friend. My good friend. I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the ending, man. It's just the final battle between Norman or AKA Green Goblin, and Peter Parker, AKA Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly the end of the movie was so intense. And,
yes.
we're helping him, civilians helping him, because Spider-Man is struggling to save the kids and save Mary Jane, and these sailors help is on the way, something like that. And I remember, I remember, like you said, I remember Spider-Man pretty much crashed into a abandoned building, and I remember seeing he went through the glass, and then there's like a bomb right from the Green Goblin, and just exploded or some shit like that. But another thing, it's like I've never seen a movie like this before in my entire life. I mean, I remember watching that part over and over again, something like that. The ending of this movie, like the final scene of the movie, you know, the funeral and the grave scene. It's like this. You tell everybody about your identity, your superhero identity. You're right. There will be enemies behind your back. Yeah, I'm right. There's enemies will keep their eyes peeled and keep an eye on you, and they're gonna do something wrong.
Yes.
You never know; it could happen.
And afterwards, with Peter, he can't, confess his love to Mary Jane, and they should just be friends. At the beginning of the film and the ending, Peter doing some narration, and him saying, who am I? I'm Spider-Man. And, one last epic shot of Spider-Man swinging through New York and, the American flag showing, which, that had to do with 9/11. And, he gets close to the camera, the eye shot, and boom, that's how the movie ends. And I love how near the end credits, they play the Spider-Man theme song, from the cartoon, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. That's a nice tribute right there.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
The 2002 Spider-Man film, still, it's a really good comic book movie adaptation. And the stuff that I said, the dialogue and everything that, to some people just, but for me, I don't care, and that doesn't matter, Stuff like that doesn't matter. Just, sit back and enjoy, this superhero movie, So, and,
yeah.
Okay, and how do we rate the 2002 Spider-Man film, starting with you?
Oh my god. 5 stars and 10 out of 10. I love it.
I give this a 10 out of 10 as well. 10 out of 10 stars for the 2002 Spider-Man film. And any last words to say on the Spider-Man film?
Yeah, this movie is part of my childhood, and also this movie is a big impact for me. I'm very proud of this movie, and this movie came out 20 years ago, which is last year was the 20th anniversary of Spider-Man, and this movie was a huge deal for fans, for Marvel fans, and mostly for Columbia Pictures and Sony Pictures fans like this. I really love the movie because I love the story. I really love Willem Dafoe's performance as Green Goblin.
Yes.
Very terrifying though, and from the get-go, I really like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man a lot better than the reboots. This movie is like 100% a classic superhero movie since X-Men, actually.
Yes. And as for me, I grew up with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, and, for all of us 2000 babies, these being our first Spider-Man films, no doubt about it, I still enjoy the first Spider-Man film as well as the other two. And what about you guys? What do you think of the first Spider-Man film, and what did you think of me and Elijah's review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And once again, it was good to have you, Elijah, for another one of these.
Anytime, man. Thank you.
Yep. We'll be back to do more review collabs down the road. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed me and Elijah's review of the first Spider-Man film. More reviews coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward. And we'll see you guys in the next video /review. Take care, and peace out.